Somebody offers me free food, I'm all over it. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I would like to talk to you about the Pick My Book selection for August. It was Just One Bite by Jack Heath. Back in July, I asked you which book out of 5 series continuations you wanted me to read in the month of August. Just One Bite was the winner. This is the second book in the Timothy Blake series. It follows the first book, Hangman, by Jack Heath. And it hadn't been that long since I read Hangman. Hangman was the thriller winner in the TBR tournament just this past May. And I absolutely loved Hangman. I quickly labeled it the most disturbing book I'd ever read. And I was very much looking forward to Just One Bite. So thank you for voting for it. Thank you for wanting to hear about it. Let's talk all about this book too. So I don't know that there's a right way to talk about a book 2 to people who've not yet read book 1. And I'll do everything that I can to kind of avoid major spoilers for book 1, but I might reveal tiny details about Hangman that you may not be interested in knowing if you plan on reading the book and wanting to experience the reveal for all of those details. The last time we met Timothy Blake, we found out he was a cannibal who had an arrangement with someone in authority at the FBI, his local FBI field office. And that individual, in return for Timothy keeping a secret of his, was helping to supply Timothy with bodies that he could consume. And the last time we saw Timothy, that deal had fallen through. He decided to enter into an arrangement with someone that we do meet in the first book, but I wouldn't say that she plays a major role. Her name is Charlie Warner, and she is pretty much the head of a small organized crime syndicate in the Houston, Texas area. And she has taken Timothy in and allows Timothy to dispose of the bodies after she's ordered someone to be killed. And that's how Timothy is getting his food supply in book 2. What happens, though, is that when Timothy is waiting for a delivery from Warner, he ends up coming across a body at random in the woods. Now, how can you really expect Timothy to pass up the opportunity of free food? He can't. I mean, somebody offers me free food, I'm all over it. So Timothy ends up returning home with both the official body he was meant to pick up that night and the accidental or free body that he's found. Unfortunately, the next day he finds out that the body he found is the victim of a missing persons case that has caught FBI attention. So Timothy is pulled back into FBI fold, begins working again with Agent Thistle. In Hangman, she and Timothy grew up together in foster care. She became an FBI agent, he became a cannibal, and she doesn't know his secrets. They are attracted to each other, but because of the lifestyle that Timothy leads, he actually ends up rejecting her in the first book. And so now in the second, she needs his help, even though she doesn't want it, to try to locate this missing person that happens to be in his possession. Just One Bite, I think it's a great follow-up to what was a very impactful debut for a series. I would say that Just One Bite does certain things better than Hangman, but it also does a couple of things worse than Hangman. So it's kind of, appropriate. It evens out. It's a great book. I think that the excitement over the outrageousness of not only reading about, in sometimes very graphic detail, a cannibal, but also being emotionally manipulated to come to care for this individual quite a bit. That whole thing is more successful in the first book just because it's our first exposure to it. So now that we know what Timothy is capable of, we're not as taken aback by anything that happens in the second book. His really unbelievable, unique, and impactful characteristics don't hit as hard in the second book. And I mean, there's really no way around that except to keep upping what Timothy is capable of. But as the author, you would have to be careful of that, because the more Timothy is capable of, the less likely he is to win over the hearts of your readers. And that, to me, is what Hangman and Just One Bite have been about. It's been about finding the humanity in a main character, in a protagonist that is, by all accounts, a bad person. That if you strictly look at his actions, you're not going to walk away impressed. I, of course, love a book like that. I never stop talking about how much I love books like that. And I would say at the end of Just One Bite, like, you just love Timothy even more. He's gone from this crazy, like, unbelievable and outlandish, dangerous and criminal and scary and, like, really in your face, to being someone who's really endearing. And you stop thinking about what he's having for lunch, and instead you start thinking about how he feels when certain things happen to him and how hard it is for him to navigate life. And I think that that's what the second book does really, really well, is underneath this crime mystery, which incidentally, I liked the one in Just One Bite better than I liked the one in Hangman. I was more connected to the actual mystery of the book in the second one. Beyond the actual crime mystery, what you get is these underlying themes and this relatability with the protagonist that at first glance you would never want or intend to relate to. So he's a cannibal and you're like, I've got nothing in common with this guy. But in actuality, he has a vice. He has something that he can't help, something that was created so long ago, and then just it integrated itself into who Timothy was as a person, or is as a person, and it just wormed its way in. And you know, he's not proud of it. He's ashamed of being a cannibal. He's ashamed of how much he needs what he needs. And even if we're not addicts, I think that we can all think of something in our lives that we've been doing for so long that even though it's probably not great for us, or even if it's something that if someone else knew that we did, we might be ashamed of, it's hard to just stop. It's hard to cut yourself off and leave a piece of you behind. And that's what we're dealing with in the second book. And Timothy and Agent Thistle start to warm up to each other again. And then the question, or the underlying theme of this book, the humanity of this book, becomes, do you give up something for someone else? Will you be successful at giving up something for someone else? Now, in the real world, the answer is typically no. The answer is that's always the wrong reason to try something, to be something, or to not be something. But that's the battle that Timothy faces in Just One Bite. Can he forsake this addiction that he has for this woman that he has loved for a very long time? He's convinced that he can, but as the reader, you know, you're watching it going, this is gonna go badly. This is just not gonna. That's not how it works, you know. And I liked Timothy in the first book. Like, I liked him, but not in a way where I wanted to nurture or care for him. I liked him in a way that I thought he was funny. I thought that I could forgive and look past what he was dealing with and what he was addicted to, because he was very clearly ashamed of it and wasn't proud of it and didn't flaunt it, you know. And I could sympathize with him and you know, enjoy him as a protagonist. And then in Just One Bite, I found him just really endearing, and all of my maternal instincts came out, and I just wanted to hug him and take care of him. And not that he's changed from being, you know, a guy who crosses the line all the time to a guy who toes the line all the time. That's not really what's happened what's happened here. He still does crazy things. He still makes decisions and has a sort of recklessness to his behavior, a disregard for his own well-being that causes him to cross a lot of those lines into unlawfulness or immoral things. And he's really quite self-deprecating, which I think is also something that I find relatable. I can't imagine why. But it's just another one of those things that makes me care about this protagonist. You would never know that Jack Heath wasn't American. So not only does he have knowledge of places and customs and processes and procedures that are typically just taken for granted and known when you're American, but he also tends to go quite a bit further, and he includes things in his book that are really relevant to some of the social issues in America. This second book mentions Black Lives Matter and police brutality and protesting, and I mean, this book would have been written before everything that's happened in 2020 happened. This came out in 2019, and no, the things that are happening in 2020 are not brand new issues. I'm not naive, but what I'm saying is that if you're not in America, in the thick of it, to not only know about it, but to know about it enough to include it and incorporate it smoothly and with believability into your novel, it speaks to having a very conscientious writer behind the work. And I think that that's incredible. I think that we don't talk enough about whether or not our authors are conscientious and whether or not we as people are conscientious. Being conscientious is, awareness and the desire to do something with that awareness, the desire to incorporate that awareness in however you can. I don't know. I'm rambling at this point. Just read the book. I can't honestly recommend reading Just One Bite if you haven't read Hangman, but I would tell you over and over and over again, and you'll probably hear me tell you over and over and over again for the rest of the year, to please read Hangman, because it's great and it is disturbing, but I happen to know that a lot of you guys really like disturbing. And then once you've read Hangman, read Just One Bite. I guess the easiest way to sum it up is to say that when it came to Hangman, I thought that Jack Heath was really clever and really brave and really funny. And with Just One Bite, I feel like he's also very empathetic and very intelligent and very wise and, those sorts of things. I think that it was a great follow-up. Nothing packs as big of a punch or as hard of a punch as the first time you're exposed to something. So no, this isn't as mind-blowing as Hangman was, because Hangman was an experience, and that experience can never be replicated. Just One Bite is still really good. It's still a great follow-up, and there's nothing else published in the series, and this does end on a tiny little bit of a cliffhanger. The story definitely has its own arc. It definitely wraps up the big mystery, but it ends in a way that that there's more to come, and yet I don't know when it's going to come. So that's stressful. If you could get on that, please, Mr. Heath, that'd be great. Eventually the guy's going to run out of riddles, because again, every chapter of Just One Bite, like Hangman, begins with a riddle. And some of them are super easy to get. Some of them are riddles that I remember hearing in childhood. But some of them I've walked away and I still don't know what the answer is. Angie was really awesome. She took my review and went and took my advice from my review and went and read Hangman, which she loved. But in the process of doing so, she thought she had uncovered the mystery of the riddles, and that the answers to the riddles were there in the text, which, yeah, I mean, I didn't go back and look at every single one for Hangman. But then when I was reading Just One Bite, I don't know that that's the case for this second book. Could very well be the case for the first one, but I was having a lot of difficulties finding a very literal answer to these riddles in the text that follows the riddle. So maybe I'm just not, maybe I'm trying to look for something that's a little too obvious. Maybe he went with a lot more subtlety this time around. But there's still riddles. That's probably why there's not a third book yet. He's got to find all the riddles. He's got to, you know, figure out and find all these new riddles for the third book. But there's no question, am I continuing in this series? Yes, of course. This could be one of my favorite series of all time. And now that I'm saying that, because I don't prepare for my videos, now that I'm saying that, I'm mentally drawing a lot of connections to the Deanna Madden series, The Girl in 6E, which has been on my mind as of late. And while the Timothy Blake series is not erotic thriller, it's kind of a crime thriller series, there are some parallels. We have two characters who are not socially acceptable. Two characters who would receive a lot of hate and discrimination and judgment if they were revealed to the world for who they are. And yet they're trying to navigate the world in the best way they know how to protect other people and to do the right thing, even when it doesn't serve their personal interests. And so I think I see a pattern here. It makes sense that I would absolutely love both series. So I'm going to need that third book. If you haven't read Hangman yet, what's holding you up? How can I convince you to do so? Because I do also want you to read Just One Bite. I want you to love this series as much as I love this series, of course. But I understand if it's not everybody's thing, because it is a little bit intense, a little bit disturbing. But at the heart of the story is a guy that I think a lot of folks can relate to. So let me know down in the comment section how you feel about it, how you feel about Hangman, if you're likely to read it. If you have read it, are you going to continue like I am? Are you going to read Just One Bite? Also, if you know of other books or other series that sound a lot like what I've just mentioned, protagonists who are really not great people, but are really great people, because that's clear and easy to understand, let me know. I would love more book recommendations for books of this type, characters of this type, for sure, for real. So hopefully you are pleased that you also voted for Just One Bite. I'm sorry if you didn't and you didn't get to hear me talk about the book that you would have preferred, but hopefully I will be able to continue in more of these series at some point in time. At some point in time. Does anybody else have all of the books in the world to read and not any time to read the books? Could just be me. But thank you so much for watching, you guys, and I will see you all very soon.